I had one of my mentors tell me, like, to go into a deal that was that complicated, interest rates doubled, you guys to walk away with a win is like a huge win. And so that's how I've looked at that deal. Is learned a lot, not making as much money as what we projected. We're not losing money. We're leaving the building better than we found it. This is the plan, and everything went perfect, and we made this return, and it was great. I just feel like, at the end of the day, being honest, no, it didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. That's okay. Bring in opportunities, qualify them, win them, pair them up with whoever is the best fit for it.
What's going on, guys? Happy 2026. We've got the first podcast of the year coming at you from Jaben Starnes, CCIM. He's one of the youngest guys to ever get the CCIM, which is just truly impressive all in and of itself. He's been in commercial real estate 7 years. He's a broker. He's an investor here in North Carolina like Graham and I are. And I'm super excited. Met Jaben on Instagram probably about a month ago, maybe. We had a conversation, really clicked, like this guy. He has a lot of the same principles that Graham and I do, and just super excited to have him on the podcast. So Jaben, thanks for taking the time. Happy New Year, and excited to have this conversation
Happy
today.
New Year. This is awesome. I'm honored to be the first one of the year. That's really cool.
Yeah. So for those that don't know you, give us a little background on who you are, how you got started in commercial real estate, and how'd you get to be on our podcast today?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll take it back to, when I was a little bit younger. I'm oldest of 5 kids, so we grew up in a big household. We were all homeschooled, so from start to finish. The only public school experience I had was kindergarten, because my mom was a sub there. So we all grew up, homeschooled. We actually had cousins living with us at one point. So for a while, there was actually 7 of us living in the house together. And I was always very, my parents were very entrepreneurial, but they're also well educated. They had, my dad was corporate. He was, Army, military, did all that. But then he was also very entrepreneurial, and they had businesses throughout, my childhood and stuff too. But, I was always entrepreneurial. And, my dad was in real estate back in the day, and he had a company called Investor's Best Friend. And when 08 or 09 happened, right, our family went bankrupt. And so we had to end up moving into a trailer. Me and my 2 siblings at the time sharing a bedroom and a single wide, eating rice and beans for months. It was pretty intense. And so that was my initial experience in real estate I had a reverence to what happens when you over leverage and risk and just being in real estate and being exposed to real estate. And so I never really even thought that I would ever get into real estate. That was very cliche to me. Mm-hmm. And when I was, I started just getting this itch to just live a great life. And I knew deep down that it required money to do that, right? I would lay in my bed at night when I was, 12 years old and just dream about traveling whenever I want to, or just going and doing things and just being free. But I knew that required money, and I didn't know how I was going to get the money. So then I started thinking about, okay, well, what can I do? What can I learn to make money? And, I was a little young to start a job, I would say, or really build wealth through income. I was still very young. So what I started doing is I started reading books. I started watching videos on YouTube. I listened to podcasts. One of the first books I ever bought was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was reading that as a 12 or 13-year-old kid over and over. I'd read it every year. And I think by the time I was 14, I started my first business. I saved up my money, $1,200 or $1,300, and I bought a course on social media marketing and how to run ads for small businesses on Facebook and Instagram, because that was kind of new. Social media was around, but the ad spin was starting to become a thing, but nobody knew how to do it. So, my goal, I told myself, was, okay, if I just make back my investment, I'll consider that a win. Well, I did the course, started learning. I set up meetings and started getting clients and consultations. And by my first month of doing that, I looked at my invoices on my little invoice app, and I had made $1,400-something. That was above what I'd wanted to make to pay for the course. So I was like, yes, it worked. Awesome. So I started doing that, right? Had a little company called GCM, Global Connections Marketing. It was all branded and everything. And I've got the business cards somewhere. But I ended up building off of that, because what happened is these clients, they needed content to run their ads on. And so I was like, hey, well, we need some photos and videos, to run ads. Well, you're going to have to hire a photographer, a videographer. So it clicked. Okay, let me do that. So I went and studied Premiere Pro, learned how to edit, bought a bunch of equipment. I started taking the money I was making from the ads or the consultations and investing that into gear. And then I ended up doing photography and videography. And so that morphed into more of a content driven business where I was flying around places, vlogging for fun, filming people, just doing little projects for small businesses and little organizations and stuff. And then that was like my intro into, I was working with businesses since I was young. And I enjoyed it. And through that process, just building, growing, listening to podcasts, books. And then it started to get to a point where I'd run into mentors. So I had some different mentors throughout that time that I would really align myself with. Because in the beginning, I looked at my mentors as my books and my podcasts because I couldn't really actually spend time with these people. And I started to meet some cool people along the way. And then when I was 17, I kind of had a midlife crisis. And I realized that for some reason I didn't think photography and videography was like a career, like a career path for me, which now with where we're at, I'm kind of glad I realized that. But so I fasted. I did the Daniel fast, which is like a fast in the Bible. It's like a 21-day fast where you just eat everything from the ground. And I was praying. I was asking the Lord, God, I have all this passion, this energy, but what do I do with it? How do I deploy this? And I don't know where it needs to go. I just have it and I don't know what to do. And then my dad came to me that winter and was like, hey, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but I think you would do really good in real estate. And if you do real estate, you should do commercial real estate. Literally, I was like, okay, so I went and got my license. I did the class when I was 17. The month I turned 18, I got my license. And then I jumped headfirst into commercial real estate. Joined a firm in Charlotte, uptown. I had a guy that took a bet on me, and literally I showed up to the office. He's like, here's a desk, this is the classic, here's a desk, let me know if you need anything. And I just remember sitting down at the desk with my computer with a Jaben app, blank real estate, it with 0 emails in my inbox and just no idea what I was doing, and thinking, man, like this sucks. And that's how I started my journey. And so fast forward, I started calling people. I just started driving around town. I would go call for sell by owners. That was a lot of what I did. Is I would find signs for sell by owner signs, and I'd say, hey, I want to meet you. Why? And then, convert that into a listing. Hey, why is it this? You want to list it? Hey, why isn't it full yet? Well, blah, blah, blah. Well, have you thought about listing it? Well, I can't stand brokers, whatever the story is. And, that's how I got my feet wet. So I ended up transitioning from that firm. We grew with them. We're, top 10 fastest growing companies at Charlotte at one point. We ended up transitioning into merging with EXP Commercial. I was with them for a few years. I helped build out their mentorship program. I was the chairman of their industrial committee, helped them launch it. I would do live calls and trainings at this point, helping people learn how to cold call. And, I contributed to the company in that way. But what I realized was it kind of became a golden handcuff situation because, they give you the titles and they kind of play into your ego. And then you look at your bank account and you're like, well, it's kind of glorified volunteering with a fancy title. And so then I made the decision to leave and start our own thing with our family. So it's, now we have Starnes Real Estate Advisors. It's me, my mom, my dad, my brother, my wife, and then we have an assistant. And that's kind of like the highlights through how I got into commercial real estate. And, it was super fun. And, there was some videography in the very beginning of that I transitioned out. But there was a point when I was 18 or 19 that I told myself, okay, I got to burn the ships, because I was kind of like leaning on that. Oh, well, I can always make money doing this. I sold all my gear. I completely got out of that business. And I told myself this has to work. Yeah.
That reminds me a lot of like what Kevin O'Leary's main advice is for young entrepreneurs. It's start as many businesses as possible in your, teens and 20s, whatever, and then go all in your 30s. Yeah. And then not to be necessarily in the age range, but it sounds like you figured out before you even hit 20, which is amazing. You had, kind of summarizing a little bit, you had your ideas, your passion, you wanted to travel, you wanted to do X, Y, Z, right? And you took action on it, which a lot of people don't do. You put in a ton of work. You figured out which lane you actually wanted to be in, which is a lot of people don't figure that out, that early, or sometimes even before their 30s, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, just kind of talking about your story. And I think that's super cool. And I'm glad you shared that. So talk us a little bit, because we had a conversation prior to the podcast. I'm curious about, the EXP transition and how that kind of went and kind of why you started your own thing. That's what I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So EXP was great for me. When we merged with them, we were the largest merger to date. So we were 8% of the entire national commercial brokerage when we merged with them. So what that did was, one, I had direct access to the president at the time. All of the senior staff and I built a really good relationship with them. And I was young. They didn't know how young I was, but I was young. And I never volunteered that, by the way, guys. Like 18 years old, commercial real estate broker. I never told anybody my age. I'm not huge on alcohol, but like I would go and drink with client as a 19-year-old and they'd have no idea. Like, and I would just hope that I wouldn't get carded or something. But so, that merger was cool because I got kind of thrown into, there were opportunities that I got to start leading and mentoring people that I'll be honest, I felt unqualified to do, but it forced me to kind of step up to the plate because, they didn't know how old I was or how much experience I had. They just saw, the results, but I didn't feel necessarily like I was ready for that. But I said yes, and I would keep saying yes, and I just kind of leaned into it, and I would just step up to the plate, and that really pushed me, and that stretched me a lot. And I actually went on to, one of the people I mentored, like she became the rookie of the year for all of North and South Carolina for this company, and it was like over 100 broker. Like I had a guy that I brought on even before I was fully onboarded with EXP, and he'd never done any commercial before. I brought him in. He's like, hey, I want to do commercial. He doubled what I did my first year when I trained him. So like I kind of realized like that was a gifting, that coaching thing. And EXP was really that season was really important for me to stretch myself and learn what kind of what I was capable of doing, even if it felt a little bit uncomfortable. But they're a great company. It was really cool just being a part of their growth. And again,
I was just going to say, I'm curious, our audience is people just getting started, and, most of it is targeted at investing, but, a lot of brokerage skills correlate over to the investing world. So I'm curious, what were you telling those people that you're mentoring, like that you can share with the audience? What do you think you told them that made them so successful? Like what are the traits and habits and, whatever you told them, give it to us.
Yeah. So let's talk about cold calling, for example. I can't stand cold calling, but I was really good at it. And so I could relate to almost everybody. And I don't really cold call now. I call it, warm calling. But one thing it was a mindset shift for a lot of these people is they were just cold calling random lists and with no plan, no agenda. And there wasn't like a genuine intent really. They're just trying to get people on the phone. Hey, do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to, how do you want to lease? Do you want to sell? And one of the big things that I did with a lot of these folks was just transition their mindset around the cold calling to like creating warm lists. And so like, for example, build off of like, find anything that you can build off of. So like you did one office deal or like one tiny little industrial. I do a lot of industrial. So like you did one little industrial lease. Well, then now you have an excuse to go and talk to like every other tenant and landlord around and use that to build off of. And so it's no longer like just a cold call, hey, I signed a lease here. Just wanted to call and see if you need any help, or, hey, are you looking to expand? I just did a deal here. Like just kind of, insert whatever you want. You get the point. But what it did to their mindset was they were no longer like scared or fearful or hesitant to call or reach out because they felt like there was a genuine reason or an excuse to call that person. And as simple as that is, that mindset shift changes your tone on the phone. That energy shift is huge. And that's really a lot of what it is. It's your confidence on the phone, and the more you believe in yourself and what you're doing and what you're offering or what you're saying, the more that carries through the person on the other end of the phone or in front of you if you're doing it face to face. That was probably like
100%.
That if I could narrow it down, that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's so good. I can't remember. You might have done a Massimo course at one point, but I know they talk about like, I think it's called social proof, where you call them and say like, hey, I did a deal with this guy right around the corner, this landlord or whatever. And, using that is so key, where you call somebody and you say, I do it a lot with like, hey, we sold a building just around the corner, or
Yes.
we just sold this or that. You're right. It makes such a big difference versus like, hey, how's it going? Just cold introductions. Like It immediately gives you a little bit of credibility with the people, and it definitely changes the conversation.
It does. And I've never done a Massimo like coaching, but I have heard it's the biggest legitest thing there is. I actually joined one of their like little virtual summits recently just to like check out the culture and everything. But it works. It really does.
That's awesome. I'm curious too, going back to kind of your initial story, obviously homeschooling is a big topic right now with everything going on politically and just the world's a mess. And a lot of people seem to be going to homeschooling.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I was actually homeschooled as well
Nice.
until I think 7th grade. I went into middle school, but I was homeschooled up until that point. And I feel like a lot of the times when you meet people out in the world, homeschoolers are much more prepared. And I don't know, I'm not trying to sound like arrogant or anything like that, but it just seems like if you take a group of people and one of them's a homeschooler and you meet them out in the world, they're definitely they're ahead of everybody else. At least that's my perception.
Yeah.
What do you think any of that played into your success with how you were raised in
100%. So,
hey guys, it's Graham here. I need to tell you about something coming up in January 2026. While most investors are making New Year's resolutions, a group of serious commercial real estate investors will be doing something different in Orlando. They'll be positioning themselves for the biggest opportunity we've seen in a while. 2026 is when preparation meets opportunity. The market is resetting and creative financing is opening doors that were not open before. And investors with the right education will have their pick of deals in 2026. And that's what's happening at Commercial Academy Live in Orlando, January 30th through February 1st. 3 days with experienced operators who have actually done deals, capital partners looking to deploy money, and a community that becomes your competitive advantage. Are you ready to start 2026 with the momentum? I would not miss this event if I was you. Text Blueprint to 888-653-1199. Again, that's Blueprint to 888-653-1199. This will get you an exclusive discount to the Commercial Academy Live in Orlando. And remember, it only takes one deal, one time to change your life forever.
I've done a lot of reflecting on this, and the number one benefit homeschooling, in my opinion, is it allows you as a child and as a teenager to freely explore your curiosities. And the amount of time that I had to just like, my mom would allow me to do things and call it, this is life skills day, or this is, and so I just kind of had like free reign to just explore. And instead of like, and I did do school. I did have school, but if you look at like the amount of hours that I actually probably spent on school versus stuff that I was interested in, I had a lot more time to explore those things. And, for me, I also got dropped off. I know this sounds dumb, but like my mom would drop me off at coffee shops when I was 12, 13 years old, which some parents might think is crazy, but she would go drop me. And then I would spend the afternoons or the mornings just in public with adults. I know that sounds dumb, right? But literally just spending time in a coffee shop and just reading or learning whatever I'm learning, but just being around like kind of the real world. And then of course you have thoughts like, like it's Tuesday morning, like this guy's not working. Like, I wonder what he does. And you start conversations and then you meet people. And then, I had one of my first mentors was a guy named Victor that did SEO, website optimization for businesses. And he would come into the coffee shop, and I just thought it was cool that he, could come work wherever he wants, whenever he wants. And again, the freedom to explore those curiosities was huge for me. And I will say, not that you can't. This is not an excuse, but I did have amazing parents, and I didn't spend any time in my brain worrying about like, are my parents going to be fighting, or what happens when I get home, or how am I going to eat tomorrow, or I didn't have to worry about kids, at school and bullying me or whatever. And so I just had this really clean environment to just think and explore ideas in my head. And I do credit those circumstances to part of, where we're at today. But it's not an excuse. And, the Lord can redeem anybody's situation. And it doesn't matter what cards you've been given. But I definitely believe that plays a part.
Yeah, 100%. I find it interesting. I had a similar experience. We did a lot of school, but also a lot of it, like you said, was just real life experiences. Like even just like going out and running errands with my mom or whatever it was, just like simple stuff. It was completely different than like my sister. I think she went into high school, or she went to public school in high school. I went in middle school, and I'm glad I did that too. I'm glad I got both experiences for sure. But it definitely seemed like I jumped in and. Obviously there's exceptions, but everybody just seemed to be a little bit behind the curve of like people who had been homeschooled, just because like you said, there's just so much practical, I don't know, just day-to-day practical stuff you learn.
And
it's crazy.
And two, our faith was the center of everything we did in our family. And so every morning, it was breakfast and like Bible prayer. Like that was how we started our days. And, just the grounding and just even training us as children to that is the thing. That's the most important thing. And I continue that today. I mean, I'm in prayer, reading the Bible, like just orienting yourself to the will of God and the heart of God and aligning yourself with that is so key to get ahead now, because there's so much noise. There's 18 million gurus telling you how to do everything, but the secret sauce is the Holy Spirit. And when you have access to that, like that supernatural understanding, the supernatural wisdom, and you surrender your heart to the Lord and allow Him to lead you and guide you, He'll just take you down the most optimal path. And it might not be the easiest. It might be a lot harder, but it's the most optimal path to pull you into your destiny and unlock the potential that is inside of you. And that's not always easy, but it is the most optimal to living your fullest life, in my opinion.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So praise the Lord for that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you were homeschooled, and then you went to you got your real estate license. You went to EXP, or you went to
Blank, then EXP, then started real estate.
And now your own thing. And so give us a little bit of insight of what your current setup is. Is it purely a brokerage? I know you said it was advisors. Is it more brokerage focused, or is it more investing focused, or give us the
so right now it's 80%. I'll tell you, I am molding this as we go. Right now it's about 80% brokerage, advisory brokerage, and then 20% investing. And there's really three pillars. There's the brokerage, there's the investing personally, and then there's the capital, right, which is really exciting. We just launched a fund with our principal partner, and we have like a $20 million raise that we're working on as of January. And wow. Our principal, he has probably 250 million under management right now. Shopping centers, multifamily mostly, and that's probably going to become a bigger part of my year this year is raising for that. But yeah, right now it's still 80% brokerage and advisory work. I will say, I don't know about you guys, but I've started to do more with retainers and advisory fees, consulting fees versus just straight brokerage. Because what I've found is a lot of times there's a lot of work that could be done as a broker that does not result in a direct deal being closed. And the only way you get paid, if you only get paid commissions, you have to close a deal. And so I've noticed there's a conflict there, obviously, of what's best for our clients and making sure that we pay our bills and we make money. And the advisory approach and the consulting fee structure has helped to take out any perceived, and again, integrity is our number one thing. So we would never advise clients to do things based on us making commissions, but there's still this perceived like, well, the only way you get paid is commissions. So, or do you really have my best interest in mind? We take that out. Hey, look, this scenario does not result in you needing to transact. We're going to advise you on this, or let's do consulting for this, because this may not result in a deal happening. So yeah, and we have residential. So like my wife and my brother, they do some residential. I strictly do commercial, but we do offer residential services under a different division, so to speak, because I've had so many clients who are like, hey, we've done 7 commercial deals, but I want to buy a house, or I want to buy some rentals or whatever. And I was not capitalizing on any of that. So I refer that out.
Yeah, definitely a different skill set for sure.
I would never represent myself to buy or sell. Like, I would hire a broker to buy or sell a house for me, for sure.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
Here's the truth about learning commercial real estate. You can figure it out alone and it be painful, or you can learn from people who have already done it and it be so much less painful. Slava said it best. It's really just watching the people that came before us. They're open, they share how they do it, and we replicate their success. Danny told me this: Commercial Academy is my number one source of off-market deals. I just say I'm looking and deals start coming my way. That's the power of being in the room, knowing the right people and having the right network. Commercial Academy Live, Orlando, January 30th through February 1st, 2026. 3 days to learn from operators who have already done the deals, and it's 3 days to build a network that becomes your advantage. Text Blueprint to 888-653-1199 for an exclusive discount. I am telling all of my friends to come to this that are even on the fence about joining and being in commercial real estate. If you're already in commercial real estate, you 100% have to be there. See you there. So it's interesting you bring up the advisor thing. Graham may have done it in the past. I don't think, but I don't think he has. But he said no. Never mind. I don't know. It's interesting because you think about it, and you can really create some really loyal clients that way. I'd have to imagine. Let's say I come to you and say, "Hey, I have this building. What do you think we could lease it for?" And you just kind of like give me some advisement on, I think I should sell it maybe in 5 years. What do you think I could sell it for in 5 years? And then now I'm going to come back to you and you're going to list my building for me because you gave me advisement on it 2-3 years ago. And you kind of have like that warm call, like, hey, how's things going? I advised you a couple of years ago. Just want to see how things are going for you. That's kind of like and it's a long game, I would have to imagine, but that's a good, I'd have to say, lead source, if you will. The continual loyal lead source. So that's interesting.
And I'm 100% of them. I'm going deep. That's my whole thing is I've been the yes man. So, being the yes man gets you to a certain point, and then it becomes your downfall because you start saying the yes to everything and then you get distracted and then you're not executing on the deals that you're supposed to be executing on. And then you have your legacy clients who are not getting the attention that they deserve because you're focused on chasing this new thing over here that you don't have any rapport with, and it just becomes a mess. And so, I am all about depth. And, to me, the deeper I go with a fewer people, they become the network for me. They become the vocal cords that are shouting from the rooftops about how great, my broker or my advisor is. And then you're getting warm leads versus cold leads. And that's how I've eliminated cold calling is, I will call if I have a need for someone that I'm representing 100%. But there is no more cold outbound to generate prospects because, again, that works for me. It may not be the strategy for everyone else. I think cold calling is amazing. Like you can get so many clients that way. But if you don't have to, I would rather be a steward of what I have in front of me. And I believe that once you get to a certain point, and when you start, you've got to do it. Like you have to build that. I mean, some of my greatest relationships have come from cold calling. But there's a point where, like, at what point do you shift your focus from like bringing in new versus stewarding what you have? And maybe if you're an investment sales broker and like all you do is just sell, you got to find off-market deals and sell it to buyers. Like, okay, then that's obviously a part of your business model. For me, I don't really enjoy sitting behind a computer all day and just cold calling a massive list and like doing that all day. It doesn't bring me joy. So I want to build a business that centers around what I enjoy doing. And maybe you don't make the most money. That's fine. But I'm happy. And it's like, I'm not chasing money. Yeah. So I'm not going to do things all day, every day that I don't enjoy. I'm going to do what I enjoy, and that's going to shine through with the people you interact with. And I just believe that's what works for me,
No, that's awesome. You make such a great point, and I think you describe like a little bit of a cycle that probably most brokers go through. Like you said, like including myself, I feel like I definitely did that kind of this last year. You say yes to a lot of stuff, you get a lot of listings. All of a sudden, you have this type of. Me and Jesse talk about it a lot. Like, should we focus on just this type of listing, or like how should we frame this? And we say yes to office listing, industrial, retail. You're scattered all over the place, leasing, sales, and because you said yes to so many things, because you don't want to miss out on opportunity. But then you're like holding hands. Like holding all these different clients' hands who are maybe even newer, and then you got your experienced clients, and then you get to the point where, like you said, your good clients, the ones you've had a long time, are like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it's just it's a rough cycle. You have to decide what to focus on. I feel like we're still at the tip of like we're trying to decide on what we're going to focus on, where we're going to spend most of our time. We're going to be doing like a planning meeting in the next couple of days about that. But I feel like that's such a good point. And the other good point you made is that you're right. There's so many, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. There's so many ways you can make money in real estate. Yeah. Then you go down to brokerage. There's so many ways you can make money in brokerage. Like we call, there's people, who are like, we call brokers, where they just network all the time. They don't ever pick up a phone. They call other brokers. They go to all kinds of different events. They're on every board possible and they do well. They make a lot of money. Yeah. And then you got like the street brokers where they're like cold calling all the time. Like that's all they do. Yep. Off market, cold calling.
And they make bank.
Like hustling. Yeah. And they make a lot of money. Both of them make good money. And then there's like the people in between. I feel like we're kind of in between. We like to have good relationships, but also we do also do a lot of cold calling. So I think that's just such a good point. But are you at all, I know you started a fund. And
I didn't start the fund. Our principal did. So, there's Premier Real Estate and there's Starnes Real Estate Advisors. We've known the Ross family our whole lives. And so, he was really big in shop assistants. He started the fund. I'm investor relations for this fund, not my fund. Just
Got it.
Got
Got
it.
it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, you're working with a fund, which is
Yes.
really cool still.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this year our kind of target is going from we still want to do brokerage, obviously, because brokerage kind of keeps the lights on, but we want to continue to shift and focus more and more on investing and buying deals between Jesse and I, and then also like with partners we enjoy working with. So like keep it smaller, simpler. Like you said, we don't necessarily want 50 investors or 100 investors, where we want to try to do business with people we really enjoy doing business with.
Yeah.
So with your personal investing career, like, tell us some of the deals you've done, and then also how you go about thinking about that.
Yeah. So I've done 4 true investments so far. So, and nothing crazy, but I did a wholesale deal one time. Didn't like that. It felt icky to me. So I never did that again. And then I bought 2 buildings in downtown China Grove, like warehouse, like adaptive reuse type buildings, with a partner on that.
Remind me where you're looking again. Are you in Charlotte, you said?
I'm in Cabarrus
Concord,
County.
okay.
Grew up in Rowan County and Cabarrus County now. And then I assembled about 30 acres of land off of the interstate over the course of several years with a partner. So I'm 50-50 on that. And we closed on some of it, but then there's a little bit more that we've got under contract, and we're working to sell that off. And basically what happened is we had a 62 acre tract on 85 for an industrial development, and then there was all this land above it that was really interesting, and I just kind of was like, this will be interesting. Like, this is more like maybe a residential play or like a flex play. And so we started assembling it, and I think we got 5 pieces totaling 30, and we're in the process of selling / marketing that quietly to some residential groups. But the cool thing with that, I only had $1,500 in that deal, which $1,500 of EMD across the whole thing. So that was really cool, just the way we structured it. And then I bought a building with a few partners in Kannapolis. It's like a 21,000 square foot building. It's really unique. It's on the highway. It's got industrial, retail, and office. Very unique. We basically went in. I think I posted like a video about it, but like we went in and renovated the inside, really nice, and brought the average rents from. I mean, there was rents in there that were like $1.50 a foot. Like, it was crazy. And we brought it up, our average to, I guess we're probably sitting at, I don't know, an average of, I couldn't even tell you, in the mid-teens probably, if you balance it out across the whole thing. So it was that was a cool one. I learned a lot. I self-managed that myself for a year, which was awful because, we had like 14 or 15 tenants, and there was office tenants, there's industrial tenants, there's some retail, and it was just it was a mess. We renovated it while the tenants were still in there. I had to evict tenants. I had people in there. I mean, there's somebody in there having sex. Like, they had like people in and out. I don't know if it was like what was going on. There was somebody that made sex whips. I had to evict them. There was some just nasty homeless people. Like, there was some stuff that we had to get through. But now that property's got great tenants, completely redone. It's cash flowing. We bought that, raised the money. The only money I have in that deal is my own money from the commission. So I put my commission in. That was it. But we raised the capital. We got a bridge loan, took the bridge loan, converted it to permanent debt. And now we're under contract to sell it, actually, which, so that's cool. It's supposed to close in April. Yeah. So again, I've had kind of a mixed match of, done a land deal. I've done kind of a multi-tenant commercial deal. I've done, old warehouse, deal and a wholesale deal. And, what I've learned is, I love to sell. That's actually my favorite thing to do, is sell. And so I love to be on the front end. Anything front end. I'm the front end engine. And what I have learned is I'm not good at the after part. And so what I'm doing is building my entire business and support system around that, because I'm doing a disservice to my clients and customers by trying to be all things to all people. So yeah.
I think it's good that you know exactly where you want to be in your business, because it kind of pulls you into like, okay, am I the visionary guy? Am I the integrator guy? Like, where exactly are my strengths and where can I focus on? I think it's also important to like that you put people around you. Yeah. It sounds like you mentioned I self-managed for a year, and then you probably turned it over to somebody else or a manager. I think Graham and I are getting closer and closer to that with our properties. We're self-managing for now. But my other question for you was, what was your favorite of the deals as far as like, okay, I want to do this deal again. Like, this is the deal I want to do again.
100% the 700 North Cannon, that type deal. And the reason it was cool is, we took a building that was underperforming and that was ugly on the inside. And I love the process of, not even about the money, but just the process of taking such a visible building that like everybody sees and then doing something new with it. And then people appreciating what was done to the building. To me, that's just such a cool, fulfilling, like non-monetary reward. And, am I investor centric? Yes. When it comes to raising capital and doing deals, does it have to make sense? Yes. Personally, the fulfillment piece is really big for me. Like, I don't want to do something if it's not fulfilling. So that was probably the coolest one because it just challenged me a lot, and I like to be challenged, and growth is really important. And yeah, so that was probably the coolest one because it was multifaceted, and I grew a lot from it. And
I'm looking at it now on Crexy. It looks like a pretty cool little deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a little deal, but you know what I mean? Like a cool property,
It's cool.
like unique property, like you said.
It's cool, man.
What are you able to kind of walk us through like some of the numbers on that? Like how much you bought it for, how much you guys put into renovating it, what you think your projected exit is?
Yeah, so we ended up, let's see, we bought it for 1.4. We put like 120,000 into it. We're under contract for 1.8. And again, it wasn't a home, like I wouldn't call it a home run, but what happened during that period is when we bought it, from when we bought it, interest rates doubled. So all of our underwriting was completely scratched. And that was the big piece that we effed up on is we didn't account for interest rates doubling over that short period. And so all of our performers, all of our projections went out the door. So then what happened is thank the Lord, our plan to renovate and lease up the building went great. And we got it filled up. We got the rents that we wanted. I think we had a target of like, we had to get, at least $10 a foot across the board to like really make it safe. And we're above that right now. But we had to, through that process, like we've had debt reduction too. So, there's been some appreciation. The tenants have paid down the debt by like another 50. And, within a few years, we're flipping it to an all cash buyer. There's no lenders involved. It's just a 1031. And, I'll make out pretty good on it, plus the commissions. So like from the broker perspective, it was really good. I'm going to get back my commissions I put in. I'm going to get the commission on the sale. I got some commissions during leasing. Part of the arrangement was I did some of them, the initial lease up. I probably did 10 to 12 leases just on the house. That was kind of part of my sweat equity in the deal. But then after we transitioned to like a longer term hold, I did incorporate leasing fees back in. So I got my commission back. I'm going to get commission on the sale, and then, we'll split whatever proceeds are left over plus whatever money's in the bank account. And this is what we did on it is we have not taken any distributions. And the reason we did that is, I think that's really key, is no one in this deal really had to have any money from it. And so we kept all of the money that has come in, we have kept in our operating account and in our bank account. And I'll tell you, there were some things that had come up that, we weren't really thinking we were going to need to do. They're just random little repairs like that add up over the years that, it's really nice to just have plenty of money in that account. And so when we sell, there's a nest egg there, plus the debt reduction, plus the appreciation. It'll be a win. It's not the win that we wanted, but nobody's feelings are hurt. Like we learned a lot. We're going to walk away with money, and I had one of my mentors tell me, like, look, to go into a deal, that was the first deal I did. So to go into a deal that was that complicated, and interest rates doubled, and you guys, to walk away with a win is like a huge win. And so that's how I've looked at that deal, is learned a lot, not making as much money as what we projected, but, we're not losing money, and, we're leaving the building better than we found it, and performing better than we found it. And, and I'm, as the broker, have an agreement with the new buyer that I will retain the leasing assignment for all these spaces, kind of long term.
That's awesome. Yeah. And plus, I mean, like, I think the biggest thing is like, first of all, you guys did win. You're going to sell for more than you bought it for
100%.
over a pretty quick time frame. But you got a 4-year college degree on small tenant, multi-tenant deals. And now if you go to do your next deal, you're so much better prepared. And I feel like that's like the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand when they want to get started is like the key to getting started and being successful is just getting started. Yep. It's like you went out, you took action, you put a property under contract. Nobody could have foreseen the interest rates doing what they did. That was kind of, it was insane. Nobody was expecting that. But you were able to adapt and make the deal work, and you learned so much because of it. Now you're going to sell it. And now when you go buy the next deal, you're like, a way, way better investor than in the beginning. And if you had just sat on the sidelines, not done the deal, then, you'd be here right now and you'd go out, you'd have to start that whole process over again. You'd be a new investor. And so like we bought our first deals, those small deals, $250,000 was a little 6,000 square foot warehouse. We bought it. The tenant we had in there, he was okay for the first couple months, but then he stopped paying rent. We had to work out a deal with him to get him out of there. 2 of the heating units broke almost immediately. So like we learned a ton. The next time we went to the next deal, I feel like we're so much better prepared. And it's just I feel like that's just the case with any real estate investing.
And the last thing I'll say on that is like, I am so like, I feel like on social media, everybody talks about like, this is the plan and everything went perfect and we made, this return and it was great. I just feel like, at the end of the day, being honest, like, no, like it didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out, but that's okay. And, at the end of the day, nobody loses money. We all walk away with money. And it's like you said, at the end of the day, the market conditions change so much in such a short period of time. And we, that's how it actually works. And that's what people don't talk about is the losses or things not going as planned. And I just, there's a lot of value in people sharing stories, you, Graham and Jesse, of, hey, this didn't go as planned. Here's why, and here's what we learned from it. And, that's a great mindset to have towards life because it's never going to go as planned.
That's a great kind of transition to what I was going to ask you about. I know you're big on like content stuff, and you said you put out some content about your lessons and all that stuff. Talk to us about kind of why you're doing content. I mean, I'm sure some of it comes from the video background you had early on, and then also like, what's your strategy with it?
So I love it. I genuinely do. I used to do it just for fun back when I was doing videography and blogging. And, at the time when I was younger, I had a lot to say and I thought the world needed to hear it. And sometimes I look back and that in my young, less experienced, less mature years, sometimes I think the heart posture behind it was a little more self-centered and a little more ego-driven, even though I had a really good heart towards it. Now I took a step back and I spent several years. I just took everything off. I deleted social media and I did a lot of inner work and I just really went deep with the Lord and I had to learn some things and I just felt like this pull away from all that. And here recently, I couldn't tell you what happened, but I finally felt like that lifted. I mean, I journaled. I do a lot of prayer journaling, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was a entry I did from like a year or two ago, and the Lord told me, He said, "You are meant to live a quiet life right now," and He told me that, and He basically shut me up, and I got off everything, and I just have felt like that lifted, and so now I'm just doing it when I feel like it and when I can, and I do have a heart for young people, like young men. I mean, anybody can watch, but there's just so many men have so much potential that just needs to be like directed and refined. And there's a lot of noise out there, and my goal is to cut through a lot of the noise, at least with the stuff that I do with kind of non-commercial related, like cut through the noise and kind of keep people centered on what like really matters in life, because you just have a much better life experience if you're focused on those things. On the commercial side, really, credibility, again, I'm just doing, my whole thing with content is, hey guys, like this is what I'm up to. Like, it's not, let me explain to you what a cap rate is. Like, I'm not trying to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be the professor of commercial real estate. Like, that's not my ethos. My ethos is like, hey guys, this is what I'm up to. Join me for the ride. And through that, showing what I'm doing, that's to me is the best form of content to help breed new business. And you know, it's just a pipeline. It's a front end pipeline, and you know, I can't do all the deals myself, but I'm building a support system to be able to bring in opportunities, qualify them, win them, and then pair them up with whoever is the best fit for it. And that's my plan going into this year is to lean all the way into the front side of the engine, and strategy, negotiations, win the deal, win the business, front end, and then package it all up and say, all right, am I doing this deal? Is somebody on the team going to do this deal? Or am I going to refer this out? And I've even created like a partnership agreement for external brokers that I trust to handle business that I give them. And there's some accountability things in there that I make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it relieves me from being mentally and emotionally responsible for carrying every deal on my back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. You can't do every deal. I think I really like what you said about how you're posting on content. I feel like you ask everybody, you got to post every day. You got to post 3 times a day. You got to post 5 times a day. And, you know, there's so much different advice out there. I think it's good that you're documenting, not creating. I think it's good that you're posting when you actually have something to share and not you're just posting to post. People don't want to see that stuff. And I think maybe your what a cap rate is more like a YouTube. We talked about a little about that before the podcast, but that's probably more of a YouTube video versus like an Instagram video. Mm-hmm. So I think the channel is important too. That's something me and Grammar are kind of figuring out a little bit as we go. But I like that.
Yeah,
man.
It's got to be authentic and genuine, 100%. And people know when it's not. So
100%.
You don't want to resent it.
That's one of the biggest. Yeah, for sure. That's something, you know, I've tried to post stuff. And like Jesse said, there's so much noise out there pertaining to business and then also pertaining to creating content. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you got to post every single day. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's like, I'm sure all that stuff's true. And, you know, we haven't seen a lot of growth in our content stuff, but we do get a lot of positive feedback that we are being more authentic. And I it's nice to hear that. It's refreshing to hear from you, like, you know, post when you have something that's important and keep it authentic. Cause that's much more important than just putting stuff out there. Cause it's so easy to just fall into like, dang, I got to post. I didn't post to yesterday and all this stuff. And it's like, and so I've kind of fallen into that recently where I don't post that much anymore because I want quality over quantity is kind of what we're going after. And, you know, but you can create, the thing I'm working on now is creating systems to make quality consistent. Because it's very hard to do if you don't have some kind of system in place. We've done a decent job with the podcast where, you know, almost everything's automated. We just, we film and then it gets put out every week, no matter what, regardless of us, which is super awesome. So I just want to recreate that in a content form where I could sit down, have a couple things I want to talk about, or bring my camera with me when I'm going and looking at properties. Those are the videos that have done the best. Also, anyways, just like doing day in the life of like, come with us, look at this property we bought. Here's the numbers, you know, this is what we learned, that kind of stuff. I'm with you on I don't want to be like the educational, like sit down. Here's 3 things about commercial real estate that you need to like. I hate that stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm big on, I know there's different, I want to share my faith and incorporate faith into everything that I do. And I just see there's this disconnect a lot of times where like, okay, I'm a this, and you just get pinged into this like little corner and it's like, this is what I do and this is my identity. And, you know, my belief is that as humans, the more we can incorporate our interests and curiosities and more kind of the full picture of who we are, it makes us more tangible, more real. And, you know, leaving out the faith, which is what all this is built on, is, I think it's a disservice to your community, and it's a disservice to the Lord, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I think this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully the people listening will get a lot of value. I have no doubt they will. But if people want to connect with you, reach out to you, what's the best place to do it?
Jaben Starnes everywhere.
Okay. Yep. And then tell them how to spell it. Just
Jaben Starnes. And love to chat about real estate or God, whatever. And appreciate you guys doing this. It's great.
Yeah, of course, man.
For sure, man. That's a cool name. I've never heard anybody. I don't think I've ever heard of or met an
It's a Hebrew. It means God has created. It's a Hebrew name.
Oh, that's awesome.
all of
That's really
our
cool.
all of our siblings were all Hebrew names.
You said you have 5, right?
Yeah.
Or you're one of
5
5?
total. Yeah, we're not Hebrew, but all of our names are
Hey,
Hebrew. So,
that's cool. My wife and I. Do you have any kids
yeah,
yet?
yeah. I've got a 5-month-old. My wife, she walked into my office one day last year, and I was like, "It's my wife." Asked her out the same day. We got engaged less than a month after dating. We got married within 3 months of that day of meeting, and then she immediately got pregnant. So now we just had our son. He's 5 months, and everything's good.
That's awesome, man.
That's cool.
I have 3 kids and then one on the way. So
Wow, good for you, man.
He's chasing that 105. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. The quiver's
I'm almost there.
almost full.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Jesse's next though. He's about to get
Let's
married
go, man.
Yeah.
this year.
Let's go.
I am.
And then,
Yeah.
Look,
Less than 6 months.
I'll tell you what, and Graham, you can attest to this. Like, once you get married and have a kid, everything else before that is like T-ball. Like, life, it completely shifts the paradigm. And like, you just feel like everything before that was just like, I mean, all it was is prep. I mean, really, truly, like the real life starts like when you get married. And I'm very excited for you, Jesse. It's amazing. It grows.
Thanks, man.
It grows you. You know that, Graham. Like, it grows you so much.
For sure.
It
Yeah,
pulls
for
you
sure.
into the identity that God wants you to have. That's what marriage and family does.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome, man. Well, thank you. We've enjoyed it. And if you've listened to this, go give Jaben a follow, reach out to him, connect with him.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. And we're excited for, a good 2026. So let's get out.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Happy New Year.
Awesome. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Bye.